Hi, my name is Finnegan and I'm an actor, aerialist and writer, and I was brought on to this project as an aerialist.
And I am Karl Quinn, an actor and a wannabe aerialist.
I'm Ciarán Taylor, I'm a director advisor, so work in a process where I will work with performers, musicians, actors and aerialists now to create performances from scratch, and I really like the sort of devising where we begin with almost nothing and find it from the people who are involved. Yeah, it's our Island Connect residency. So we spent 2 weeks in Corsica at the Theatre Alibi back in April, wasn't it? And so we've had 2 split weeks here in Limerick to finish it off. And really it's, you know, it's been great just to have that time to do an exploration, to try and really find how can we develop a language together, and that's really been the object. We thought maybe we might get a great play out of this in the space of 4 weeks, but you know, that hasn't happened. But we know, I can really see sort of where the tracks are, where these 2 forms might sort of come together, and that's sort of the basic question that we were looking at, is like, how can you make the theatrical aerial and the aerial theatrical?
Sort of basic things like upskilling, so actually getting to use some of the equipment that's available and to see what the possibilities are there for somebody who doesn't come from an aerial background or have that training. So,
and he's made enormous progress.
Yeah.
I mean, Karl's a great physical actor, but he's really embraced flying and has no fear of heights, which is great.
And then it's, you know, as Ciarán was saying, it's to then try to find a language together. So how can these 2 disciplines talk to each other? Because, you know, we have different routes into the work. For example, we would often do long form improvisations that might be 40 minutes, an hour and a half. So that's one way, one methodology that we use to gather material, which is not possible in aerial. So then you have to have a conversation and dialogue about how do you do that, because in aerial obviously that's a long time for the body, and also there's huge safety concerns, and also there's the setup if you're going to go from one thing to another. So just on that very basic level, it's those negotiations. How do we sort of begin to sort of figure out how we're going to talk to each other?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose Ciarán led the space, so we would kind of start on the ground first, and Ciarán would help with prompts. I guess, again, like you were saying, like kind of starting from the bare bones, like minimum, and just working with the space, with each other, with connection, disconnection, and just working with the body and that. And then we brought in some aerial equipment, and then we were negotiating the space with the aerial equipment and the bodies, and then long form improvs, and then I guess we started to build pictures from there, and kind of make a trajectory that way.
Yeah, and it's very much like a movement theatre approach, so and devising in that, you know, which there's a lot of like coming together to find a common language, so that, you know, you can learn to be reading the signals, and the 2 performers. So lots of the work is about trying to build that relationship between the performers, so that they're really reading each other and finding the rhythms. But then also always looking externally, so like the movement, that it's not about generating things with backstory and internal emotions. It's about finding movements from the outside that then provoke and release those emotions. So it's a sort of a non-logical reverse way of trying to find material. But it means that everything is always active. You know, that the movement, the thought is the movement, and the movement is the thought. And I suppose the step that we have played with and have, you know, made some progress on, but you know, it still would continue to work on, is like, how do you know, the moment when the movement turns into language, you know, and that transition, which is really powerful. And for me, you know, when composing with the elements of theatre and movement, you know, it's movement first, and the voice then comes from that moment of stillness when the movement is reverberating. Because the equipment used to do that is sort of unusual. It's not commonly found in the world. It's like, okay, how do we engage with those, you know, the hoop and the silks and the rope as objects, and their movement capacity and understanding the dynamics of them, and then trying to find a way to allow stories to happen via the movement that these objects allow us to do. And for me, again, yeah, one of the big things, the areas of interest is extension. So we're always looking at scale, you know, it's like bringing movement to its absolute maximum and to its minimum. And by flying, it's an extension. It allows a scaling, to, you know, where you actually do take off the ground when you're about to take off the ground, whereas normally we don't get to do that except by jumping or climbing up and jumping in the air. So, you know, that's been great fun.
Well, it's interesting because when we went to the theatre in Corsica, they'd only used aerial once before, and it was a few years ago. So we just had like one fixture on the ceiling to put the rigging up. So we kind of had those limitations from the get-go. We built off the physical language that we did in Corsica, but then really used IACC to like really explore like all the other opportunities for aerial in the space, because it's got so much possibilities.